Hey everybody, welcome back to another 3D tutorial day. Today we are going to make these fun little pizza boxes, and inside I have little cards, and they are just little 3x3 cards, and I made the envelopes to go with them. And so they have the little tabs on here because I have a glue dot already on here, so the recipient just has to put their little note in their card, take this off and close it, and it's a sealed envelope and ready to go. And we will talk about that here in just a little bit. So let me show you a few things. So first off, these adorable cards are made with a retired and unavailable paper. However, everything else is available. And today we are going to use another paper that is retired, but you can still get, at least at the time of the recording of this video, and then a couple of different stamp sets. So we are using the Stamp and Die from the Spruced Up Card Making Workshop. So you can see both of those here, the flower cluster and the banner. And then one of the sentiments is the Just Because, and this is the Shared Happiness stamp and die cut. And we're not using any of the die cuts today from this, but we are using the Just Because, and we are using 2 of these flower images. Now, let me show you a neat trick before we go on so that it has a chance to dry. And so this is one of the flower clusters, and I have pre-done all of them to make this video a little bit shorter. But these are done with our watercolor pencils. And these are actually the pencils that have now become unavailable, but there are some new watercolor pencils available. And you can use any brand, but these are the colors that I did use. And I used my water brush. It doesn't have very much water in it, but that's okay. So you can see that this piece is a bit warped. And sometimes that happens when you're watercoloring, because I'm using just plain white daisy paper. I am not using anything, I'm not using a watercolor paper. And you can kind of see on the back a little bit how it's warped. And I'm just going to add a little bit of water on here, and that will help flatten it out. So I'm going to set that off to the side there, and we're just going to let that dry while we do the rest of this. And the little heart on the envelopes is the smallest stitched heart from the Stitch Heart dies. All right, first things first. We are going to move these out of the way. And we are going to cut. So this paper is actually the French vanilla paper. And you can just barely maybe see the difference on camera. There's just the slightest bit of difference, but it's a beautiful color. Okay, so that is, and you may hear my son. I'm actually recording at home, and he is downstairs gaming. So okay, so we are going to cut a piece from this. that is 5.5 by 10. So this will be a piece of scrap. And then we are going to cut this at 6 inches. And this will be a piece of scrap. And then again at 6 inches. And then here's what we should have done at the beginning and figured out which is the bend in our paper. So our bend is this way. So we want to cut this way, and we're going to cut at 3 inches. Our bend is this way, so we're going to cut this way. All right. And that's our cutting for now. So this is the only scrap that you'll have from this piece of cardstock, and depending on all your other stuff, you could use this on the card as well. We are not going to today. We are going to bring in our trusty scoreboard and our stylus, and we are going to score at 1 inch and 4.5 inches. Okay, and then we're going to rotate. We're going to score at 1, 4.5, 5.5, and 9. Pretty simple, right? Okay, so that's our box. And then we're going to score each of these cards at 3 inches. Done with that. So let's do some burnishing. Okay, so now let's do some cutting. So we are going to cut straight and angle. All right, that is all of our cutting. Now before we put our box together, we're going to do some decoration. And we're going to do the decoration on the cards at the same time as well. So I have all of these pieces cut already. And I have the hearts that I cut out already on some glue dots. So this is what we're going to do. We're just going to glue them. And then this is a zip strip from the Holly Jolly, I believe. Here, we'll find out here in a minute, I think. Are we going to find out everything but? Nope. Oh, what fun. And we are just... And then on our cards, we're going to put approximately in the center, we are going to make sure that our hearts are the right side up. And that they are lined up as best as we can. So if your paper has something that you can line up with, like our lines here on this paper, use that. And because of the flower cluster's size, the strips do not have to be perfectly lined up. All right, so let's go ahead and burnish these. It is easier to do the fronts of the cards, especially for this size, if they're not burnished yet, because they'll lay perfectly flat. All right, so we will come back for the rest of that here in just a moment. Now this piece I did glue or tape two pieces together so that it would be large enough. And then just glue that centered, just like the cards. And then our hearts are going to go over that line, and they are going to go score line to score line. Okay, so now it is time to glue our box together. Because we want to do that before we put our three-dimensional items on here. And we're just going to put glue on all of these tabs. And we are just going to line up the corners. Make sure they're nice and straight. Nice and straight. You want to make sure that those middle tabs attach to the bottom of your box and not the top of your box. And voila, our box is put together. All right, so let's put our pieces together. Here's a little trick that I learned, and I don't know that I'll be able to actually show it on camera. I have tried it on a video prior, but I have figured out how to do it. So if you use your piercing tool and you get right near the end, you pierce it just a little bit and you pull up at an angle. It does not work perfectly every time, but it does work most every time. All right, and then this one is for the box itself. All right, and last but not least on these cards are these little banners. So now I did say that one of the sentiments comes from that larger stamp set, and that sentiment is not curved, but because of the stamp design, they are super easy to bend in the right format to fit on here perfectly. Like, would you know that this Just Because doesn't actually belong with this stamp set? Because it really doesn't. Okay, so I do have all of my envelopes done, but I did want to show you how I did it. So I have it scored already, and I have it, so this whole piece is 4 3/4 by 7 inches. And I scored at 1/2 inch on both of the long sides, 2 1/4 from one end and 1 1/2 from the other end. And then again, you're just going to fold and burnish. This is 24-pound copy paper, so it is not cardstock weight. It is slightly thinner than what an envelope would be. But that's okay, because these aren't going to be mailed. These are going to be handed to someone, or they're going to be included with a gift. And then I am just going to trim off all 4 corners, and I'm going to miter that end. You can't actually see my score line in the light. And then, so this is our envelope base, right? So we're going to add glue here and here. We're going to make sure to not cover that very end portion because of the mitering that we did. We don't want to glue it closed. And that is the majority of our envelope. And then I took my corner chomper and I did 1/4 inch, but actually let's do 1/2 so you can see the difference here. So there's the difference on the envelopes, the 1/4 inch and the 1/2 inch. So pretty simple. All right. So I did say that I have these hearts on glue dots already, and they are only in this upper corner. And what I did first was because mine are on the inside, right? So you can see that? So mine is right there. So I peeled it up and I chopped off some pieces and then I put these on. So I still had, I always keep a little bit of a tail to help protect. And so this is what worked. So I am just going to take one off. I am going to line it up in the center. And then we'll do all of these first. And like I said, these are not going to be mailed, so it's okay to do this. Well, they won't be mailed alone anyway. All right, so now my glue is ready to be put away. And I still have my little tab, so I have 4 different little glue dots. And I am just going to, okay, I have found that if I hold the glue dot facing up, then I can line up the heart over top of it, and I can leave that tail dangling. Now, right-handed or left-handed, Totally up to you, whatever feels the most comfortable. And I leave the tab on there so that I don't glue that envelope closed before anything can be put in it. Okay, so our envelopes are ready to go. Put those in the bottom. And then we need to do a little bit of stamping. Just a tiny bit. So those are the 2 flower stamps already on blocks. We are going to use the ballerina ink. It looks very, very vibrant on the pad, and I promise you it's not that bright. So I'm going to use this just to protect my surface here a little bit. So that I can have my flower come down a little bit. Hopefully you can see that. Possibly not, because it is very light. And the lighting in here, not the greatest today. So as you can see, this whole thing went together very quickly. It used 1 sheet of cardstock and 1/3 of a sheet of B&T paper. And I forgot one. And it's really very simple to put together. And I don't know about you, but I have a ton of zip strips from past paper packs that I didn't use, and this would be the perfect use for them. So hopefully you like the little boxes. They came out super adorable. The cards inside match, and they were super fun to put together. The longest part of the whole thing was coloring the flowers. So you could use watercolor, you could use colored pencils, you could use alcohol markers, you could use any kind of markers, any kind of crayons, anything you wanted, and it would be beautiful. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the project. I hope you make one of your own. I would love to see it if you do, and I will see you next time. Have a great night. Bye-bye.